titles every day to our awesome collection of blockbuster movies, from Hollywood to Nollywood. Download the app and subscribe. This isn't just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play, beyond streaming. Announcing the launch of MovieBox, Arise Play's content submission platform. Are you a film producer, director, or distributor looking to give your content the exposure it deserves? Then check out MovieBox today. For more information, visit moviebox.ariseplay.com. This is not just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play, beyond streaming.
Every moment matters. Every decision, every moment of courage, every act of kindness, every declaration of war is made by someone, somewhere. Arise Newsnight analyzes the decisions that affect all of our lives.
A very warm welcome to you. This is News Night. Every night, we bring you the moments that matter, from the top to the bottom, and in every corner of our country. We bring you a focused agenda from Nigeria, Africa, and beyond. Focus on what's important with Arise Newsnight.
This week, 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues, and all the controversies around the world. I'm Sumner Sambo. And now to the headlines. More security concerns in Borno State as Governor Babagana Zulum says ISWAP, gaining more influence in the northeast, calls for urgent military action. Amidst internal crisis in the All Progressives Congress, state chairman inaugurated as Reconciliation Committee says more members are still aggrieved. To be zoned or not, People's Democratic Party at crossroads over zoning of 2023 presidency. Who gets the ticket, north or south? And ECOWAS sends stabilization force to Guinea-Bissau following a coup attempt in that country. Stay with us. The Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum has warned that the 13-year Boko Haram crisis in the northeast will be a child's play compared to the terror that will be unleashed by the Islamic State of West African Province, or ISWAP, if the federal government fails to wipe out the group now. Zulum, who gave the warning while addressing State House correspondents, revealed that ISWAP is building up a strong force in Borno State while exploiting its proximity to the Sahel region. The governor also told journalists that ISWAP, which is a more educated and enlightened terrorist group, is growing its numbers in some parts of Borno State. Governor Zulum believes this should be a cause for concern to the federal government to nip the situation in the bud early rather than allowing ISWAP to plunge the country into a security crisis. The governor says even if it means using mercenaries, ISWAP should be quashed by all means. Let's take a listen.
The only way you can defeat insurgents is to ensure that the resilience of the community is being strengthened. This is something that we did. Whether we like it or not, some of the root causes of the insurgency are not limited to endemic poverty, pervasive illiteracy, increasing infrastructural deficit, climate vulnerabilities, and increasing poverties. How this thing happen? Bad governance. Establishing good governance is key, is sine qua non to ensuring peace building, social cohesion in any state of the Federation. But notwithstanding all the contributions of the federal government, we still have some challenges. One, I said it even before, that growing number of ISWAP in some parts of the state is a matter of great concern to everybody. Where? In the shores of the lake Chad. Again, in southern Borno State. Luckily enough, I was told there was military deployment yesterday to southern Borno State to fight the insurgents in the Tambukta Triangle. But I think this is an early warning system. We shouldn't allow ISWAP to grow.
Well, to help us analyze this issue and the implications for the country ahead of next year's general election is Dr. Ibrahim Bello Dauda, a political strategist and leadership consultant. Also in the studio is Patrick Agbambo, who is a security analyst and publisher of Security Issues in Africa. Joining us from our Overflow studio is Jonathan Onoja, a security consultant and member Africa Security Forum. And I'll come to you straight, Dr. Dauda. What do you make of these issues raised by the Borno State governor? He has just told us here that it all boils down to leadership, good governance. What sort of good governance do we need to ensure that ISWAP is not given the strength to grow in that region?
Thank you very much. The governor raised important points, among which is bad governance. Now, if you look at the history of successive governments in the country and up to the present, and looking forward to where we're going to, that's 2023 and beyond, what the governor may be referring to is the will that should be displayed by governments or leaders in their commitment and resolve to administer the polity within the ambit of fairness, equity, justice, transparency, honesty, and all the related values and attributes that a leader should possess. One of the key elements of a good leader is his ability to enshrine those attributes into his administrative dispense, lack of which creates disharmony in the system, breeds injustice, agitations, poverty, economic, and all other problems as enumerated
so do
by
you
the
think
governor.
that the state governors, the previous Borno State governors in one way or the other may have contributed to the governance challenges that that state is facing at the moment, and even within the Northeast region itself?
It's a cumulative of a lot of factors. It's not restricted to governors. When you say leadership, you are talking of a holistic approach from the federal level, the state level, the local government level, and the commitment and their resolve to lead within those issues, things we've listed. What are the responsibilities of the federal system? What are the responsibilities of the president? Where does it stop? What are the responsibilities of the governors? Where does it stop? What are the responsibilities of the local administration? Where does it stop? If you do a holistic analysis of all these individual, levels of or tiers of government, you will discover that what has been lacking is one, which is individual decision-making processes by every arm of government that contains those elements we have listed. Are they discharging their duties equitably, justly, honestly, transparently?
And then we'll now come to the security angle. Patrick Agbambu, I mean, you have monitored the activities of this group. Why is ISWAP such a huge threat for not just Nigeria, but West Africa at the moment, to the extent that the governor is saying that, look, this is a much more educated group that needs to be quashed early, or else something bigger than Boko Haram will happen to Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you. They are much more because they have all the support of ISIS, all the support in terms of strategies, in terms of technicalities, in terms of equipment, in terms of administration, and so they are now more structurally more organized than the earlier Boko Haram that we were dealing with. So they have already started even before now, before the governor made this call. Their presence has been registered since 2 years ago in that region, and they have tried several systems. We have seen several of their leadership commanders being changed for one reason or the other. So they are stronger. It's a stronger force with a stronger equipment and support internationally. And that makes it, the governor has a reason to cry, but there are other factors also that demands some actions from the people in the northeastern region.
All right, and I'll come to you on Noja. Why do you think Governor Zulum chose the State House to actually make that statement? Was it to actually make sure that this voice goes beyond politics, goes beyond the issue of being seen as just a Northeast problem? Was it to actually send a clear early warning system to the nation generally that ISWAP could actually overrun the entire country, not just the Northeast alone?
Yes, you are very right, Mr. Sambo. Let me start it from this angle. You cannot solve a conventional insecurity problems with a regional security solutions. And then I want to say that we have based our suspicions on hostile intelligence. Just like my brother spoke last, he said there are supports, of course, from the outside world, and then, of course, they have strengthened them more to operate. But we have not been able to deal with our domestic supervisive organizations. And that also will make me to mention the issues relating to sponsors of Boko Haram as stated or as always propagated by the National Security Advisor. And reasons why, according to the Attorney General, they have not published the names of the sponsors. So majorly, we have two main threat factors to national security. And like I said, we have hostile intelligence and also domestic supervisive organizations. So the governor will not be wrong, and just you, like you say, will not be wrong if there are state actors that are affecting or challenging the progress of the governor's actions or efforts to ensure that he quells insecurity. Right. So I believe that the call is a warning to the nation, and also to tell the nation that there's a need for us to strengthen our security, conventional security architectures before the situations go out of hands.
Out of hand. Okay. And I come back to you, Dr. Dauda. I mean, you are from Borno State yourself, and you're a northerner. How much is this issue of collaboration between local communities with some of these insurgents group going at the moment? Previously, we are seeing the Nigerian military crying that there's always this collaboration between local communities and Boko Haram. That's why Boko Haram had been succeeding. But later on, there seemed to have been some success. But now we are seeing ISWAP growing again. Does it mean that there's this collaboration between this group and also the local communities within the Northeast that's making this to fester?
Well, I wouldn't want to look at it that way, because, of course, there will be collaborations at every ambit of it. Because you cannot have a situation of that magnitude without collaborations in one form or the other. But what is important is the approach by the authorities. When I say approach, I mean holistic. I keep on insisting federal, state, and local authorities. There must be that collaborative effort.
Yeah, and the governor is actually APC,
Yes.
and you could see him going to the presidential villa to meet with President Buhari.
Yes.
I mean, what more collaboration would you be looking for? In this instance, the government has been in power since 2015. Are you saying that there hasn't been much collaboration between these two arms of government, both the state and then the federal? Hence,
what about the
there's
local
this outcry
What
again?
about the local governments? Are they? You see, we have to be realistic in some of our approaches. Are our local government councils enabled enough in terms of authority to manage their activities? We cannot continue to limit the capability of a particular tier of government and expect a positive result. Development as it is today is mostly based at the local government levels. Are they independent? What is holding their independence is more of politics and selfish interest than the general interest of the country. So collaboration should include the local authorities in terms of giving the local government chairman, the security operatives at the local government, and the traditional architecture of the local government, that level of capacity, resources, and independence for them to take, because these collaborators we are talking about, they are all localized. They are all at the local levels, managed by this other...
always threatening some of those communities. Now, and I'll come to you, Patrick Agbambu. What did you make of that statement by Governor Zulum that two local governments are uninhabited? And, he was trying to it looked like he was trying to play politics about it. If it's uninhabited, who has been collecting the allocations to those two local governments? What's been happening there? Is it that the Nigerian military is not present there? What did you make of that statement, actually?
Yeah, thank you. I have visited some of these local governments in Borno State, talking about Guzan Malam and all those which are the periphery of the Lake Chad basin and Lake Chad itself, and really there are no presence of governance. I think drawing from what Doctor is saying, which I totally agree with, what first of all fuel and keep on sustaining this crisis is the lack of governance, our government presence at the local level. In reality, when you go to some of these communities, you won't see any government presence, and that has made these non-state actors like ISWAP and its like to relate with these people at the grassroots and by their conscience or by their support in whatever agitations they are carrying on. And so if like this, the president is having meetings with the governors, because periodically he does that, we expect the president to also have meetings with local government chairmen, so that also let them understand the minds and the thinkings, and there should be collective and collaborative efforts in combating these crimes. To answer your question directly, I know that most of the local government chairmen in Borno State, they reside in Maiduguri for one reason or the other, safety and security challenges. Some of them will tell you. Some of them are so afraid to go to even their communities. I was in Bama recently, and I expected that the local government activity will be there, because even the emir of Bama is there, resident, and there are other activities. Yet there's no presence of the local government activities. I was also in Mungunu. Also, the local government is absent, but you see activities going on and on. So really, allocation is given. Governors are pocketing it for whatever reasons. Nobody can say that. Very
interesting development. And I'll come to you, Noja. What do you think the Nigerian military should make of this early warning system, this alarm by Governor Babagana Zulum?
Well, I expect the military at this point to coordinate a more tactical operations on the two local government that the governor have make this report about. But going forward, I expect the Nigerian military by now to go after the sponsors of this insurgents and all of these actors, playing even state actors. But then they will equally need some understanding of how the state operators or the state actors operate within the state. You cannot go to a state where you don't have intelligence about to quell the issues. Like I said, you cannot solve an unconventional problem with the regional solutions. The governor is crying today because it's affecting Borno State. If it goes to another state, in Adamawa, also other state, like it has appeared in Benue and all of that, all the places, you have to come up with another model how to quell these situations. But then there should be a general model that we are going to use to address the issues holistically without having a mindset of it is only Borno in this instance. Today, Borno is crying. Tomorrow, where are we going to go for if another state starts crying? So I believe that the military will come up with some models to tackle the issues from the top, not just only Borno State. But they're going to tackle the issues that is going to affect the whole state in Nigeria without having a biased mindset of the kind of operations to carry in Anambra and the kind of operations to carry out in Borno State.
All right. Then we'll just move, just hold on. We'll just move straight to other security issues before I let you go. The Economic Community of West African States has agreed to send a stabilization force to Guinea-Bissau following a coup attempt in that country. This comes days after the president of Guinea-Bissau, Umaru Sissoco Embalo, was ambushed by gunmen armed with machine guns and assault rifles at the presidential palace. 11 people were killed in a gunfight that lasted about 5 hours. According to local media, President Embalo said the attackers, who are linked to the thriving drug trade in the country, tried to kill him and his whole cabinet at the government palace. To arrest this growing trend across West Africa, ECOWAS has reaffirmed its determination to protect democracy and freedom in the region, while restating its commitment to the principle of zero tolerance for the accession to power through unconstitutional means. And I come to you, Doctor, again. Still the same issue of leadership failure, governance failure here and there. I mean, these drug traffickers seem to have taken over that country, and it's been a very big challenge. There's a huge leadership deficit in Africa, and especially West Africa, that has led to military coups in the likes of Guinea. Now we have Guinea-Bissau, there was Burkina Faso and Mali. What do you think can be done to revamp this situation?
The answer is not far. Good leadership. Now, good leadership within the context of the will of the African leaders. If you look at Africa, had suffered more coups than any continent. More. And why? The answer, most people know. Bad governance, leadership, bad governance, leadership. So what is the solution? The solution lies with the people of Africa. I'm talking of the electorates of Africa, the business community of Africa. Because there's another angle from which people are not looking at. Vested interest. Individuals...
Which you always have in every country,
yes.
Actually.
Vested interest collaborates to topple governments if the government becomes assertive in dealing with, illegalities, corruption, drugs, arms, and other, vices in the society. They collaborate to do that.
All right.
Okay, elective relationship between the masses and the elected, the politicians. In a country like Nigeria, where our politics have been terribly monetized, it becomes difficult for credible personalities to become leaders. It plays roles in a lot of African countries. Then foreign influence. A lot of countries, a lot of coups, we have to admit, have correlations of foreign interferences, particularly if those countries stand their grounds on fostering development within the country in order to free the system from foreign manipulations.
All right, just hold your thoughts there. Let me bring you Patrick Agbambu before we let you go. What do you make of this, coup attempts in Guinea-Bissau, and then, of course, the rising coups across West Africa?
Yeah, Nigeria and other nations already have presence in a peace mission in Guinea-Bissau. Running Nigeria intervened in the election process, making sure that it went peacefully and all that. I had also visited Bissau as visiting to see Nigerian troops.
Yeah, that was the stabilization force before they were asked to
go back and all that, because things seems to have settled a bit.
Yeah, but now ECOWAS is asking
it's
them
coming up because
back.
of the drug lot. It's in the drug war problem around the whole world. Guinea-Bissau, the port of Bissau, is the major transport point. There was a time where an aircraft even transported drugs there, and when they were chasing it, the people were able to got this aircraft burnt just to hide the evidence and all that. So there have been a lot of problems. So the president actually is saying what is the real issue about the drug. But talking about the crisis and the coup across, I will tell you that it's in as much as not a welcome development, but it's a statement that most of these West African French quote-unquote control countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and some troubles in Cote d'Ivoire, is as a result of people revolting against French military crisis in their own system.
And interference in their
system. So that is the reason why what we're seeing there.
All right, and I'll just quickly go to your Noja. What do you make of this ECOWAS standby force, that's stabilization force being sent to Guinea-Bissau?
Well, it's a normal arrangement when there are coup d'etats and issues like this start coming up. However, the coup issues generally within the West African regions going on today is just perceived as a failure in governance, and the upward perception from the masses that the government have failed, leadership system is failing, a lot of corruptions, and then they feel cheated, and you can't hold them to it. When issues like this start coming, go back to the issues like even in Nigeria, the NSACs. These are all domestic supervisive organizations, all to take power in an illegal means when government is failing. So it has to do with government. You have to do with governance as well. Where the people feel cheated, where there's issues, then of course there have to be a normal. There's something has to come in to normalize the system before we can now take over power. And this has to show that democracy is failing in the West African region. Democracy, as it is not holding grip as it's supposed to be in Africa. So I expect government to take breath and equally make changes with the leadership approach and policies so that the masses can benefit from the issues of governance.
All right. Jonathan Onoja, we must thank you so much for joining us. He's a security consultant based in the nation's capital, Abuja. And Patrick Agbambu also is a security consultant based here in the nation's capital, Abuja. We must thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the show to take a look at these critical security issues affecting the nation. When we return from the break, we'll look at matters arising on the political front. Stay with Arise News.
When you go away, you love to fly. 2024, our first branch opened in Lagos, Nigeria. And we took our place in this new land brimming with possibilities and surprises. Take Kano, for instance, where the city's wealthiest trader made his first deposit. 20 bags of silver arriving on camelback. Aren't you glad that we offer online banking today? Expanding across the West African sub-region and beyond, our early presence made it possible for all hardworking Africans to build great things. So is it any wonder that not one, but two first bankers have gone on to become Nigeria's central banker? We are intricately woven into the fabric of society, supporting polo for over 100 years and pushing the limits of athletic performance. Rooted in tradition, but constantly leaning forward into the future. Are you coming?
You first, First Bank.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Sumner Sambo. After what is believed to be a successful convention and new leadership in the opposition People's Democratic Party, the party is now faced with the dilemma of where to zone the presidential ticket or whether to throw it open for all eligible aspirants. There has been a back and forth in the party on which part of the country should get its presidential ticket. The PDP Southern Governors Forum is demanding that the ticket be zoned to the south in what they consider as fairness. But former Governor of Kano State, Rabiu Kwankwaso, has argued against the call for zoning the 2023 presidential ticket to the south. Kwankwaso considers the call by the governors and other leaders as an attempt to intimidate the northern region into relinquishing its right to contest the seat. A deputy spokesman of the party, Abdullahi Ibrahim, came under fire during the week for saying that the PDP's ticket is open to all Nigerians. What then is the next step by the PDP? Well, to discuss this issue further, we have in the studio Dr. Ibrahim Bello Dauda, a political strategist and leadership consultant. Also joining us is Dr. Sam Amadi, who's a Rise News analyst. And I come to you now, Doctor. What do you make of these calls for zoning the PDP? It seems confused. It seems to have reduced the tension in the party when it got its convention right. But this time around, it looks like there's this huge clamor that may cause further division in the PDP. What's been your view about that?
Zoning was a child of necessity post-1999. Because to solve a problem, you have to look at the history of the problem. Before now, the First Republic, 79-83, there was no zoning. It was an open platform for credible Nigerians to choose whom they feel has what it takes to administer the country. But looking at what happened from 1986 to 1993 changed the paradigm of politics because of certain instances of what has happened within the political arrangement that heated or overheated the system to a point of brink. So it was an arrangement that was brought up to pacify or attempt to calm down nerves, to give certain sections of the country a sense of belonging.
Especially after the June 12
issue. Yeah. So, but are we still having a nascent democracy? That's the first question. Because if we are, then I think from 1999 to date, we should have graduated from that position to another position. If that is the case, then I think Nigerians should rethink our priorities in how we elect our leaders. Why is zoning overheating the system? Agitations by elites and politicians in terms of power grab. Is it in the best interest of the masses, of the generality of Nigerians? What are we afraid of?
Yeah, shouldn't there be fairness, for example, to the southeast of the country that hasn't got any precedent since 1999? There's also the northeast of the country.
That is every system has its pros and cons. Politics is a game of number and alliances. You understand? So if you are going to rotate the power as it is now, how many tribes do we have in Nigeria?
Well, we are talking of the world of PDP before I come to him. The world of PDP actually states that from their constitution, zoning is part of whatever they do.
It's part of it, but it
so
is.
Why are they trying to run away from it this time around?
I'm not a PDP person. I'm not I'm speaking as an independent person.
Yeah.
You understand? Why are they having the issue of zoning as a problem? If it is honestly because of Nigerians, and if it is in the best interest of the country, I think everybody knows the right thing to do. Nigerians should have a free will to elect who they want. Now, within the party architecture, in trying to produce a leader, the parties should be careful of not putting their interest more importantly than the national interest.
Okay.
Because if the party is interested in zoning, are Nigerians interested in zoning? Are all Nigerians interested in zoning?
Well, very, very good submission you've got there. And Doctor, I want you to answer that. It's a new one is brought in, that the party, the interest of the political party should not overwhelm the national interest. Do you agree with him?
Of course. What's the national interest? The national interest is to stabilize the country. And if we are, every politics is about number, but you first secure a country before you govern it. In 1958, at the Willie Case Commission, issues around fears of domination. This country has always been constructed around dealing with fear of domination.
Yeah, so that commission was actually to ensure that the minorities are protected
before we get into federation, into independence. So the notion of winner takes all is not anywhere good for the country. And it's not about number game. If you talk about number, then people exit the country so that the bigger you constitute, there are countries as small as city-states, okay? But what we should go against zoning is to create the concept of shared power. I've been saying that. What is driving this vehemence for zoning is President Buhari's singular failure to create a sense, it might be symbolic, of shared government.
Yeah, but what does Buhari have to do with PDP?
I'm coming. The agitation for zoning is because people feel that it's winner takes all. So, for example, if you look at development, what has Obasanjo's presidency in 8 years done specially for Southwest human development infrastructure compared to others? Arguably, President Buhari's going to 8 years has not really returned much value to the North, development-wise, because this is epicenter.
So isn't that the reason why he's saying that we should look at the national interest?
I'm coming to the point. So here, the context around zoning is not substantial in terms of impact on development. It's actually existential. It's about, do we have future? Do we feel that we are part of the governing system? And that's why our constitution talks about federal character. And that's why in 1958, they came around and said, to mortify this fear, insert the Bill of Rights. So the argument should be, if we don't want zoning, and by the way, I'm not an advocate of zoning because really it's not substantial in my view.
It's too restrictive.
Apart from that, it doesn't return, it's an elitist game. But the point is, we must acknowledge that we should not do a politics that try to recreate the country. And then think around who of these candidates has the means to be fair to everybody. We must admit that we've been unfair to ourselves. We've created this winner takes all that in the last 4, 5 years or 6 years has compounded unreasonably agitation for separation, for self-determination, and now zoning. So if you look at APC now, they're talking about zoning as well. If you look at PDP, we're talking about zoning. So my point is, look, you're right to say nations should trump, but then nation trumps mean we are ready to come together and say, look, let's create a meritocracy, not just in election, also in economics, in business, in commerce. Yeah. Let's focus on getting our best everywhere. Let's come back and say, in sharing infrastructure of security of everything, which is what the federal character talks about. We're going to make sure that in that room, we reflect, for example, Biden is talking about sending the first black woman to the Federal Reserve, sending the first black woman to the Supreme Court. And the argument is about representation. So I would argue that it doesn't matter whether all the presidents in Nigeria come from Southwest or South-South, provided that we sit here and we have what we call shared power.
All right.
That is the alternative to zone. So it's disingenuous to say, oh, don't zone. But you know what? Keep the power, the way it has been in the last 5 years. That's not. That's,
all right,
that's not
it's
normal.
actually a very big challenge. If you look at the issue of zoning, as a country, have we benefited from zoning? Would you say that since 1999 we've benefited from zoning? You said that you don't consider Nigeria's democracy as nascent at the moment. So should we move and embrace meritocracy?
That is the way to go. Now, there are things I always believe we should look at when analyzing the problems of Nigeria. What are the root causes of all our problems? Lack of development at what level? I still go back to the local levels. Now, if the governors are agitating, how much have they done to free the local governments at their level? It's about commitment. They say charity begins at home. I spoke about the 3 tiers of government. The responsibility of the president today, for example, to send or to approve the budgets of the country and to allocate the resources as agreed by the Revenue Mobilization and Commission. Now, once those monies are disbursed to those states, who takes precedence? The governors. Now, does the president have power to tell the governor what to do with that money? The question is he doesn't. Now, the man at the local government level is looking up to the president for development.
Instead of the governors.
Instead of the governors. Whereas the local governments are tied to the governors. So development is choked up at the state level and the local governments are not being carried along in the development process. So if you look at, that is why everybody is looking at the center, because that is where the whole thing is. If you disconnect or free the local authorities and make them responsible for the resources they are going to get from the federal system or their own share, the people will now hold them responsible. Now, that will put a relief on the federal and state system. And the people at the local government, for example, you have a local government that have a subvention of 200 million a month. And they only get, let's say, 50 million a month.
And what happens to the 150 million?
Which is their salaries and maybe overhead. Now, what happens to the 150? Now, the local government cannot obviously develop from that level. And there will be poverty, they will be living in squalor.
All right.
At that level, so this breeds what? Discomfort, agitations, insecurity, and all other things that we're crying of today.
Yeah, and then I'll come to the issue of this local government that is talking about. President Buhari has fought these governors to ensure that there's local government autonomy, even bringing presidential orders. Yet the governors keep fighting the president. Why is it that the governors are looking for freedom at the federal level, but when it comes to their own states, like he said, they want to be emperors?
Well, it also has a problem halfway. For example, we talk about local government. Look at the constitutional framework for that. The local government, when Obasanjo tried to do the local fiscal reform bill, the Supreme Court said you cannot mandate how the states share the resources. Now, the first point is free the local level to generate their own wealth and send to the center. So we don't say, oh, give them that 180 they receive. The point is, why should they be receiving? So if you look at 1963, the Wilkins and 1960, the idea was to say that local economy is the growth. So the federal government does basic functions of defense, security, common services.
Currency and all of
Exactly. So now we have centralized the federal government that overdetermines.
Well, isn't that an offshoot of the military government
No,
that
that's
we
the
had
point.
that was
So
unitary?
with that overdetermination, the politics flows upward to capture that center. So I agree with him. But to do that, you have to restructure and reform in a way that the local government, by the way, if you look at Switzerland model, American model, center federal, it's not trade tier. And my friend has shown me the constitution that what the constitution talks about is establish a system of federal, state, local government. It didn't regulate it. It's for states now to make laws to regulate local government. We need those fundamental changes. And I agree with him that let's focus on local development, local governance, local economy. But you can't have it both ways. You can't
we just have to go on the short break. When we come back, we'll look at the other side of the coin, the APC and the inauguration of state chairman amidst internal crisis. Stay with Arise News.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
What?
Now this is more like it, right? We want the best quality ingredients when we cook. But when it comes to salt, we care less. We say salt is salt. Well, I care about my salt. It goes into my food and my body. So I use Dangote salt. Dangote salt is high-quality salt that is refined and iodized to give great taste to my meals and also to support my family's health and well-being. It's time to care about your salt.
Welcome back to This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo, and the All Progressives Congress has inaugurated the chairman of the state chapters of the party. This is despite the internal issues that are still threatening the party in some states. The interim national secretary of the caretaker committee, John Akpan-Udode, carried out the exercise on behalf of the national chairman of the party, where he gave out certificates of return to the state chairman. 34 of them, that of Sokoto State and Kano State, were missing. And this is coming on the heels of the talks by some party members at the National Reconciliation Committee of the party, headed by Senator Abdullah Adamu, is yet to conclude its work. And so as a result of that, National Convention should not hold. But during the same week, the party actually wrote the Independent National Electoral Commission seeking INEC officials to be present at its February 26th National Convention. It's a mixed grill for the party. Well, I still have with me in the studio Dr. Ibrahim Bello Dauda, a political strategist and leadership consultant. Also here is Dr. Sam Mamadi, who's a Rise News analyst. And I start with you, Sababadi. What do you make of the APC? I mean, we heard that the president has given a directive that the APC has to put everything in place, including those two states, Sokoto and Kano, to ensure that by Monday or Tuesday, those state chairmen are inaugurated, because there should be no reason why those two states are excluded. What do you make of what's going on in the APC at the moment?
I think they're doing patchwork. I mean, they just have to have a convention. You know, time is good. The deadlines are shorter now in the new constitution. And of course, in the Electoral Act, we expect the president to sign. So they need to wrap it up. But again, they're wrapping it up expectedly with cracks everywhere. If you look at the issue before run up to this, to what happened, many states, few states actually have certainty. You know, take for example Imo State. You have Rochas Okorocha's group and no reconciliation. The reconciliation committee wanted extra days to tidy up, but the going backward from deadline means they have to do it. So we're going to see a convention that three things are going to happen. APC before the 2019 election, had issues that got to the court, and two states were basically lost clearly because of this crisis. So the prayer of APC leaders will be, let not these contradictions and conflicts and uncertainty play big in terms of outcome. But essentially, they're going to push through. They're going to trudge on and have a convention whose, prediction as to orderliness, certainty and legal implications might be very, very unclear.
All right, and I come to you, Doctor. What do you make of the APC? Do you think the party is well prepared for its convention?
The party is certainly going to have its convention, but what I will appeal to all of us in this country, especially the politicians, is to put national interest over personal interest. Because most of these problems are man-made. No, they are not problems that are supposed to be problems. They are problems that are mostly there because of one interest is conflicting with another interest.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have the reconciliation committee.
Yes, are not willing to let go certain interests for the larger benefit of everybody in the system. So the Reconciliatory Committee has done a good job, obviously, by narrowing the disparities and the agitations to 2 or 3 states. That you have to give it to them. But I believe before the convention time, they are going to do more to bring those states on the table for them to look inwards and put the interests of the people beyond their own interests so that there will be peace if they really want to forge ahead and we want Nigeria to move forward.
You are a chieftain of the party, and I also learned that maybe you'll be having presidential ambition or something. Among several aspirants that have shown commitment to the APC at the moment, do you think that the calls by some people that the issue of the interim national committee organizing the convention, the presidential primaries before the convention should actually come to play? Why do you think some people will be suggesting that an interim national committee should actually hold a presidential primaries before a convention? Shouldn't it be the way we've had it now? Because we heard that there was so much pressure on President Buhari to ensure that Maimala Buni committee maintains this whole trajectory, holds a presidential primaries first, then before they go into convention.
In every process, there are rules. The party is governed by a set of rules, which is the constitution of the party. And beyond that, you have the federal constitution, which is the constitution of the entire country, which, is above and beyond any rule of law that conflicts with the federal constitution. So I think beyond interest, the leaders of the party have sat down to look at the rules, what is allowed and what is not allowed, and the interests of the country, and where we are now as a country, and the challenges the country is having. And say, look, let's everybody put their interests aside, and let's conclude this within the ambit of what is legal, so that the party can forge ahead. So I think that has been achieved.
All right, Dr. Sam, why do you think that there will be pressure on President Buhari on a convention date that the governors all agreed on? Why do you think that these groups, some groups are pushing for Maimala Buni to actually still be allowed to hold a presidential primaries and then even shift the national convention? Do you think that so much intrigues are ongoing in the APC that may threaten its existence?
Expectedly, like you said, private interest is at play here. This is about who becomes the party's flag bearer in 2023. Politicians, APC had not had a convention after its presidential convention 2019. Even before then, they didn't have, some of the organs were not actively getting function, the BOT and all that. And of course, they had this contraption called interim, which was failure also to really,
build a consensus
around post-Governor Adams or Shomole. So clearly, the high wire politicking going on to secure the ticket, this is a ruling party. So the notion is also that you are in a good position when you get a ticket of a ruling party. So everybody's struggling to get it. And it's a winner takes all and a zero-sum game. So what that means, therefore, is that this struggle to push, to have or not to have, it was difficult to get the interim committee to agree on this date. And now people are still trying to get it by 1 or 2 weeks. The argument might be that some people are trying to fine-tune their own strategy. So if you look at the contenders for the office of the chairman of the party, which is the main deal there, maybe there are people who have advantage at this moment. So those who are at disadvantage would like to push the envelope further, kick the can. Hopefully, they can get a better outcome. So, but look, the prince had to stand his ground and say, look, we go to the election, we do this and wrap it up. Whether it's going to be by consensus, by direct, indirect, they work it out. But essentially, this uncertainty and this pushback is because people who are likely not seeing a clearer picture for themselves want to keep pushing so that they can also be able to maybe unnerve and undermine the other.
All right. And do you think that this convention, the outcome of the convention, will threaten APC's chances in the future, considering how we have these groups that are having issues of reconciliation and not agreeing to reconciliation, and how that may threaten the chances of the APC in the future?
If you look at political history of Nigeria, Nigeria's political history, it has been almost, I call it a negative normal.
Very
you understand? Whenever there is whenever we are approaching an election period, you see a lot of inflammations within the party system because interests will clash. But at the end of it all, beyond the convention, the party executives will be, elected. They will settle down, definitely, and then they will face the business at hand. So the problem will shift from the party election to who becomes what candidate at different levels, from the presidential, the flag bearer, to the governorship, to the Senate, and the rest of them. So the pressures will move there. And that will give the party at that level a breathing space to concentrate on now their ability to stand their ground and be just in administering the state's processes. Because the primaries is going to be a bottom-top approach, starting with the House of Assembly, National Assembly, governorship, and then accumulating at the presidential level. So if interest is put in before national interest, selfish interest is put in before the national interest, obviously there's going to be contraptions at different levels. So I appeal to the leaders to, when elected, to sit down and look at the national interest rather than any personal interest.
All right, Thomas, thank you so much. Dr. Ibrahim Bello Dauda is a political strategist, management consultant, and also leadership consultant. He has joined us on the show here to take a critical look at issues, and I also have been joined by Dr. Sam Amadi, who's a Rise News analyst. We've been looking at the issues in the APC and the PDP. Well, that's how it's been for this edition of This Week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Sumner Sambo.
Everybody want enjoy, everybody want in love, everybody want to glow, nobody want party love, everybody want joy, who don't like it better, and if you wanna talk to mommy, 7, if you wanna top your credit, 7, if you wanna run on time, 7, 7, 7, if you want plenty data, 7, if you wanna go do 7.
Sensational world of love, now accessible through one code, *777#.
People they make me laugh when they say 2K, not be money. 2K! You don't start to, you don't start. See you. You never hear of Fidelity get a lot of millions promo season 5 when you say, we just check in it 2K. You go to win plenty of millions. All you need to do, carry waka, enter any Fidelity bank, open any Fidelity savings account, collect your ATM, or that account where you get already. Save just 2K. Then lucky winners fit win 1 million naira every month. On top of that one lucky winner go win 5 million naira and 2 million naira for another lucky winner. And 50 winners go chop 10,000 naira. One by each. If you put the save for 2K constantly, you put it carry up to 10 million naira go house. Oh, work.
My yam is so. If you like, don't go and open your Fidelity Bank savings account and collect your ATM. So, the more you save, the higher your chances of winning. I hear what the man.
With Fidelity, we keep our